Empowerment Through Knowledge and Sarina Stone present the Tequila Drinker's Guide to Health and Wellness radio show with your host, medical Qigong author, practitioner, and educator, Sarina Stone, featuring the director of the Universal Healing Tao Medical Qigong System, Master Chia.
Welcome back. This is Sarina, and I'm just across the road from beautiful Tao Garden here in Doi Saket, Thailand. And today we're at Yellow House Cafe. Lots of Master Chia's students and friends come here to hang out, have a little coffee and be naughty perhaps, maybe some chocolate cake. So today I'm really proud to be interviewing the first lady for Master Chia's podcast. This is one of Master Chia's favorite instructors. She is a senior instructor. We're going to talk about what that means. Aisha Sieburth, originally from America and now living in France and really making a big splash in the Qigong community. So welcome, Aisha.
Thank you.
I keep saying Aisha because that's what your name looks like, and I read a lot, okay? It's Aisha.
Yes, either way is fine. There's many ways to pronounce it.
Okay, well, yes, you can call her what you need to, but never call you late for dinner.
No, exactly.
So, well, welcome, and I want to go right into this conversation about who you are, how you became a senior. We're not going to take all day with it, because actually the subject of this interview is really going to be the healing love practice for women. And I know that men want to hear about this as well. This is the cultivation of sexual energy for health and longevity. And Aisha's, you know, all senior instructors, all instructors in general have their own twist on things. I wanted to bring Aisha in as the first lady to speak on this, just I have a lot of respect for who you are, what it's taken to become who you are, and the gentleness with which you share your knowledge. So let's just go into the first bit. Who are you? How did you become involved with Universal Healing Tao, you know, and Master Chia? And then how did you become a senior instructor? How was that different than me? Because I'm just an instructor.
Okay, yeah.
So,
yes, I mean, it's a long haul. I got to say, it's a long process. I have to say for myself, I started actually when I was 5 years old already, because I was brought up in Japan. Luckily, I had parents that were travelers and very interested in different cultures, and so we lived in in a traditional temple in Japan for when I was, let's see, around between 5 and 7 years old. So that was sort of my first, how would you say, sort of a view onto Asiatic kind of ways of looking at things in a philosophy where the mind and the body are connected and where energy is actually a reality. You know, it's something that's palpable that people use in their daily language and in their daily way of life. So that was my first contact with Qi already when I was very young. So
it really is different from America, Europe, to Asia.
Yes.
Okay. I would agree. I've spent most of my time in Thailand, you know, well, with you a lot, but it's also my experience, especially when we get a little outside of the city. There just seems to be a relationship with nature, and yeah.
Yes, definitely. The natural elements are considered like, you know, living beings, so they're part of the family. It's like, you know, oh yeah, I just talked to my uncle the tree, you know.
Yeah.
And he gave me advice about, you know, what to do about, you know,
I love it. I love it.
My brother's wedding and what we should be.
So wait a second. So you had this as a background. So your life, it just felt, how can I put this? The way you view life right from the get-go then is different than a lot of the folks listening to this show right now. We got a lot of city folks listening to the show. So
I've lived a lot in the city because I mean I grew up with this sort of privileged, you know, kind of exposure to you know, the spiritual life and a more, you know, oriental sort of heart-open type of culture. But then again, you know, when we moved to the States, we moved to Boston, and I grew up as a Boston girl, and I had my rock group, and I was a rock star, and then I moved to New York, and I was a crazy artist, and I did all kinds of, you know, completely off the wall kind of stuff, and you know, had my rebel years, and
Yay!
living in the city was great, you know, because there's like lots of energy, a lot of people, it's exciting, and you're very far away from nature, but you're very close to, how would you say, other ways of generating energy,
right?
You know, through your creative kind of, you know, I mean, all the sort of connections that you can create in yourself and with other people, and, you know, all the things that are going on.
Well, this is one of the things that I really like about whenever I spend time with you. It's pretty clear that regardless of what it looks like and what you're doing, you have sort of a fun, energetic bend to pretty much whatever you're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
The main thing is to enjoy whatever it is you're doing as
well,
much as you can.
There's a level of mastery there. It's,
yes.
You know, ask any of our listeners, like, we're not enjoying a lot of the things that we're doing.
Oh,
All right, so we know that you discovered the way of nature, whether they called it that or not, as a child, moved to the city, had some fun, and you know, explored other aspects of humanity. How old were you when you met Master Chia?
So yeah, well then I had already moved to France, and I met his work actually in 1998 through Fabienne Flamand.
Oh, we love Fabienne.
She was my first instructor. Yeah, she was an amazing person to be inspired by at that time. She was one of the first senior instructors actually to like start her own school in France, and I had a lot of very amazing experiences. We were working on the beach most of the time. All year round, whether it was snowing, whether it was icing, whether it was thunderstorming, whether it was like hot sun, and we were just out there, you know, doing our Tai Chi and our Qigong and like whatever the weather was, and just really feeling the Qi, like really getting awakened up in our bodies. So that was an amazing initiation, yes.
I wish you guys could see Aisha's face, because there's so much love and so much joy. I know Fabienne as well. Honestly, she's one of my favorite people on the planet. Okay, so we want to transition into the Healing Love stuff really soon. Aisha, so you met Master Chia like 20 years ago, basically.
Yeah, okay. It's been exactly 20 years. And then I came to Tao Garden in 2005 for the first time to do my instructor training. And to get my certification with just about all the basic practices, you know. So we need to get, of course, this inner smile, 6 healing sounds, microcosmic orbit, and then the iron shirt practice. And then I also did the Daoyin practices and the Tai Chi form, the 13, which is a great form. And
did you come back for Healing Love?
So what I did is I waited for 2 years, and I came back for the Healing Love certification. Having done a lot of practice on my own, of course, because I mean it's like a major transformation.
That stuff is huge. And I want to start talking about that in a minute. I should just tell our listeners, because I get a lot of emails about, how amazing that people think my life is, and I'm not even a senior, right? I don't have a school, okay? I'm just me. But people look at our lives and they think, wow, as educators for medical Qigong, and especially with this system, your lives are really magic. What is the difference? Because you have a school, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I don't. What is this difference? What do you have to do that's different as a senior instructor than I had to do just to be a medical Qigong educator?
Well, it takes 8 years of studying, very assiduously all the practices. So you have to pass all the certifications, basically, for the higher practices, the Dantian Qigong, the Fusion 1, 2, and 3. You have to go through the iron shirt practices as well, 2 and 3 of iron shirt, the Neigong, the bone marrow Neigong, and then the cherry on the cake is having. What I had to do is I had to practice with the egg and be able to carry and swing a liter of water with my egg.
I'm sorry, when did that happen?
That was when was that? 3 years ago, I think, when I passed my certification, and I had to film myself proving that I could do it.
Okay, that's news to me. Okay then.
That was the That was the main deciding factor as to whether I deserved to be a senior instructor and whether I had attained the Chi level to be able to do that.
All right, now we know that you've been all over the world. I know you've taught all over the world, and I'm sure we would love to hear stories, but I want to go into this healing love thing. That was an amazing segue. She did not plan that. We're just going to go right into this. First of all, in your words, okay, why would a woman, I'm going to ask a two-part question. Why would a woman want to study these sexual energy practices, okay? And why do men need to know that that even exists? And I'm just talking about for women right now, okay? Because men have their own practice, and I've talked about that in other shows, but why? So let's do the first part. Why would a woman want to explore the cultivation and utilization of her sexual energy? And then I'm going to go right into why should men know that this exists?
Yeah, those are very, very key questions. So I mean, I can just bounce off of what I just had to go through for that certification. For example, I mean, you know, the reason why we want to cultivate this energy is to get to the source of our vitality. So you really, when you do this practice, you connect with something that's very deep inside of you, your pure potential. And as a woman, you know, we spend a lot of time kind of turning around that and missing the point a lot of the time. And so it's one thing, you know, we attribute femininity with softness and passivity and gentleness. Okay, those are all good things, but within that yin kind of essence, there's also an incredible power, an incredible strength, which is our personal power. And so using these cultivating practices, we get in touch with that essence of ourselves and that internal strength. And if we can really harness that and put it into service of our more receptive self, we have something that's much more balanced in ourselves and something that's much more strong and centered and grounded and powerful. So a lot of things then, you know, a lot of our stereotypes or emotional kind of difficulties or all the health problems that we can have just melt away because we're rebalancing our energy from the inside.
And I've actually seen this as well. I'm going to guide this before we talk to the gentleman. I'm going to guide this conversation in a little bit of a different direction. Do you believe that there is a point where a woman could actually use her reproductive energy? I just heard you talk about health. Talk to me about longevity.
Yes. Of course.
Talk about our pretty little faces that are not that young anymore, okay, and how glowy and girlish we can be when our energy glows and is healthy.
Yes.
Do you believe that eventually these practices could lead to greater longevity?
Yeah, I would say that's just one of the small byproducts of these practices. I mean, really, it's about transforming our energy and stimulating the secretions of our hormones. So if we're stimulating the glands that then secrete all the hormones that we need, that we actually return to a kind of a mode of youth, you know, that we're turning the clock back. That, of course, is going to boost, you know, not only health, but cellular regeneration and DNA regeneration. So, of course, we're going to be looking younger. Our skin is more hydrated, it's more elastic, our joints are more flexible, you know, we have thicker hair, we sleep well, so we have our beauty sleep. You know, all the symptoms of aging, as we say, you know, in quotes, actually are just symptoms of our fire and our water, we could say, of our hormonal energy decreasing. So if we use these practices to stimulate the glands and keep the hormones moving and actually working and flowering and playing, then, you know, then they're going to keep up all the functions of our body. So and you know, for health reasons and for beauty reasons, that goes together, it's hand in hand, because our beauty comes from our inner state of health.
For sure. And now everybody who's listening to this show knows why you are the first lady that I wanted to interview, because I have a very scientific approach when I teach the healing love to ladies. I think sex is great. Love it. Okay. But that is not my platform for the basic class. Right. It's about the science. It's about hormones. It's about glandular secretions. And so, yay.
Yeah, that's like the bottom line, right?
Yay, yes. Well, because, a lot of, and you can't blame a girl. A lot of girls are looking for a very goddess type experience. And we're going to talk about dance because you're an expert in this, and bringing the goddess mentality into, this experience. So a lot of ladies know that they're looking to feel more feminine and get in touch with the goddess part of their personality. But there's a whole lot of girls out there that would just like to get healthy, and then we can explore the goddess stuff later. Okay, we've got incontinent women showing up. We've got women who's, they keep getting, cysts and fibroids, or thickening of the tissue in the breasts, and and aging symptoms way before they should. So we also have a group of gals that would just like to understand the chemistry. So what I want you listeners, ladies and gentlemen, to get is that when you work with Aisha, of course, it feels good. Of course, emotions have to play into it because that's part of your physical health. But this is a woman who also understands how focusing positive energy on specific organs and glands, stimulating through movement, breath, and thought, it's actually a very physical practice. And it has a biochemical effect, a molecular and biochemical effect on the body. So there's that. Now let's transition over. I wanted to hear you talk a little bit because I know I've seen you work with men. I don't know about Healing Love, but I've definitely seen you have classes with men in them. You've been teaching here for a long time.
Yes.
Talk to the men. Address them just for a couple of minutes. Why do they want to know about these practices for women? Would it change their relationship? Or what do they need to know?
They need to know everything.
Ooh, that's sexy. Okay.
The more you know, the more you can be in a deep understanding and a kind of relationship and connect with the women of your life, the women that you're with. And also even understand yourself better, because there's actually a lot of things that are very similar between men and women. And so the more you understand the opposite sex, the more you understand yourself. That's already, I would say that's a pretty fundamental fact as well.
That's fundamental to you, okay? I think half our listeners are going, wow, that's brilliant.
Okay, whatever. I mean, that seems to be common sense, because in the beginning of our embryonic development, we're basically the same. I mean, our sexual organs look the same, and we develop in the same way, and it's only farther along in the process that we start differentiating into, nature decides, okay, we're going to be a girl or a boy, but the gonads and the organs and the hormonal process are basically the same. So the sexual sort of understanding that a man can have about a woman, yes, of course, a woman is more on the inside, and where the man is more on the outside, but the organs themselves and the way they work are quite similar. So if you can understand a woman, you can understand also much better your own capacity, perhaps, to last longer during lovemaking, to have less, how would you say, all the the masculine types of problems that you can have, but that's a whole nother discussion. But understanding that a woman, that when she needs more time in order to get in touch with her sexual energy and to let it sort of awaken, that's also the time that a man can use to get into a deeper connection with his own sexual energy, so that he will be able to. So it's not just like, okay, like premature ejaculation or the type of sex that you have when you're too overly excited, right? So if a man understands how a woman works, that there's a lot of water involved and glandular secretion involved, just in the lovemaking process, then that will help the man to calm his own fire, calm his own sort of hyper-excitedness, and be able to master his own sexuality as well.
So what you've done is you've given our male listeners something to think about. I think we need to identify right now if you were to get an email or somebody went onto your website, we need to talk about that. Actually, how do they find you? Are you willing to speak to men as well as women about reproductive energy work?
Sure. Oh yeah, I teach men and women. That's mostly what I do.
Okay.
And I have a special course for both men and women.
Okay.
Not couples, but for men and women who practice, so I teach them the same practices in the same room, but each person is practicing for themselves so that they can learn to master their own energy. And then when, in the privacy of their own homes, they can do whatever they would like to do to share that practice with their partner. And of course, it will only multiply and amplify to, seventh heaven. But they can do that on their own.
Okay, so believe it or not, we just hit 20 minutes. That was the fastest 20 minutes of my life, I think. I'll have to tell you, audience, listeners, I thought when I sat down with Aisha that this was just going to be for the ladies, and that I was going to encourage ladies to contact Aisha for this kind of information. But now I think I need to say to men as well as women, if they want to hear more on, first of all, self-mastery with the sexual energy, and then maybe the ability to be ready to share and understand your partner. I think we need men and women we need to open that door. So I've just been educated. Aisha, speak slowly. I want you to tell people, how do they find you?
In France.
Yeah, but do you have a website?
Yes.
Do you have?
My school is called Tao of Vitality.
Okay.
In France.
Okay.
Or in French, it's Tao de la Vitalité. Okay, but you can just on internet, you just do a search Tao of Vitality, France, and you will find my website, which is called Tao de la Vitalité. There's an English version of the website.
Great.
And so, that's fine. So,
and then once they get to the website, is there like a contact us button, and they can send you an email?
Yeah, there's a whole program. There's a contact button. There's the agenda button, which has all my workshops on it.
Okay.
So I would say yes, because this is for an English-speaking audience, so it'd be better for the folks listening to this show would probably to just focus on the workshop that I teach once a year here in Tao Garden. That would be the best thing to work on, probably, because the ones in France are in French.
Okay. Folks, also, if you're listening to this podcast, it means you found it somewhere out there on the internet. I'm going to go ahead and put the website, put a link to Aisha's website, so to make that even easier for you. And maybe we'll put an email address. I don't know. We'll have to sit down and take a look at that. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. This was an amazing conversation. I want you to also know that we're going to do another interview with Aisha next, because she is also expert in how to use dance. Now, do guys get to dance too?
Okay. Everybody.
For men and women, how to use dance as a form of release, of transformation, to get to know ourselves. I studied a little bit, but certainly not enough to talk about what you do, enough to know that I want to do it. And guys and gals, I want to encourage you to come back in a couple of weeks and listen to this interview, because sometimes speaking doesn't work. And if you're a man out there listening to this show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't want to have to talk about all of your emotions, especially at the end of the day when clearly you've run out of words. But Aisha has this knowledge about movement of the body. Yes, she does the QiGong moves, of course. But there is something that she adds to our system and our family of Universal Healing Tao instructors that is very unique. It's a body of knowledge regarding movement and dance that we absolutely have to talk about. And especially if you're a guy. Because you need your support in expressing and transformation. And sometimes for ladies, it's a little easier. Sit down and have a coffee, okay? So we're going to do another show with Aisha in a couple of weeks. And I want everybody, please come back, because we're going to do an extension of what we just started talking about.
It's the dance connected with the sexual transformation work as well.
Yeah, okay. So
it goes together.
You guys come back. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to visiting with Aisha again in about 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on another Empowerment Through Knowledge adventure. Want to learn more? Find Master Chia at montachia.com. That's MANTAKCHIA.com. Find more medical Qigong lessons, books, and information about studying directly with Sarina at sarinastone.com. SARINASTONE.com. Thanks for listening. If you like what you learned, subscribe today.